first thing you do when you make a bit is you heat it up a little bit, and then you go to the bench and you take your tweezers and you pull the clear out from underneath it. So it sets down on the rod a little bit. And what that does is that prevents the clear from coming off into the bit as you use it. Now I know you're all going to do this when you make your bits. You're going to get a little bit of clear that goes up into the color. If you pull the clear out from underneath it, that won't happen, okay? Try and remember that. So what I have now is the bit right up against the punny rod, and it's got just a little bit of a point to it, but other than that it's pretty even and straight. So we'll just leave this like this and store it in the pipe warmer now. The bits go all the way on the left hand side. If you see a rod all the way to the left, check it and make sure that somebody doesn't have color on it or something. That's how you know not to grab it. Left side. So for the color to stick on here, it has to be really like red, red, red hot. And I'm going to put the white on here, which blew up in here, which is not unusual. So I'm going to take the biggest piece and stick it on, and then go heat it up a little bit. Well, in this case, what I want to do is just heat it up until it barely softens, and then grab the rest of the parts. See, that's just starting to soften around the edges a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not quite hot enough to stick to the rest of it. The reason I want to do it that way is because if you get this too sloppy and you pick up a bunch of cold pieces, it's going to be really hard to control.
Right.
So as soon as this is sticky enough, go right back in there and grab all the rest of the bits and pieces. See, now the whole thing is on there and I can heat it all up pretty much together.
Yeah.
Without losing control of it. As far as how hot you get it, it's all got to be like melted together, and it's got to be workable and even on the blowpipe. So I'm just going to get it roughed into shape now and then right back into the heat. And Generally what I like to do is I like to heat it up really hot because if there's any bubbles in there, you get it hot enough, they'll come out. Especially if you have a crack in the color. Can't hear you.
Same sugar.
Yeah, you get it nice and hot and all the bubbles and everything come out.
How far do you go with the break?
Right there. See, now this is starting to finally get hot, and you can see how there's a bubble right there. See it? Right there, bubble. And what will happen is I'm just going to cool the surface a little bit and compact it, and I'm not going to close that bubble up. I'm going to go back into the heat and let it close itself. Now the color's up to full temperature. The bubble closed, it's gone, no problem. And I want to get it like perfectly centered on the pipe, get all the dents and wrinkles out of it. Pretty much just make it nice and pretty. Now the last thing I like to do is start bubbling the color. You got to be really careful when you do this. You see how it's grown just a little bit? Just popped off the blowpipe just a tiny little bit. I know that there's a bubble inside there. So that'll make starter bubble a little bit easier down the road. The reason you have to be careful is because if you do that when the color's too hot, you blow it right off the end of the blowpipe. So when it's all heated through, and you get your shape made, then quick pop a bubble into it. As soon as you see it move even a little bit, just stop, because that's all you need. It's like a tiny little pea-sized bubble in there is good. And then gathering over the colors, wait until it cools down. Especially with darker colors, because they're very deceptive about how hot they actually are. And you go into the furnace and you get your gather half wound up, and all of a sudden you see the color coming off the end of the blowpipe. It was too hot. So then you're digging color out of the pot so everybody doesn't get mad at you.
Is there a way to physically test the...
No, you just do it by experience and color. See that blowpipe is like down to a real dull red color?
Yeah.
That's good. Then you put your gather on, you got all the time in the world. We'll just do a really, really quick block on this. And while it's still nice and hot, I'm just going to make sure that I have my starter bubble. Can you see the colors moving? There we go, done. And again, I want to make sure that I squish it back down a lot because I don't want this bubble to be too thin to gather over again.